Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Steve. I started doing this Sunday night stream every night, doing a little early today, just to kind of vent, talk about things that interest me. Today, I am going to talk about what it means to be an American. Before I dive into that, let me make sure my sound, yeah, okay, that looks good. So our country's so super divided, right? As if that's not obvious. And we have an upcoming presidential election, which is just going to tear this country apart even further. And it is going to be a roller coaster of a political year. But I got to thinking, what does it mean to be an American? And I could not come up with an answer that would satisfy most people. You know, there's a lot of folks who are very critical of America, as am I. But don't get me wrong, I would rather live in America than almost every other country on the planet. But that doesn't mean it can't be better. It's just that things seem to be getting worse. Before I dive in, so I wrote I have a blog that no one reads, just like this video that no one watches, but that's okay. I'm just kind of practicing, getting used to talking to the camera. But I wrote a blog post today on this topic. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I did want to go through it. And before I dive into that, what also kind of spurred this conversation is, this immigration thing is a big issue, right? And then that kind of got me thinking what does it mean to be an American? Before we dive in, I know I got a silly meme here. Got to poke fun at Trump a little bit. I'm always poking fun at Biden. But I saw this on Twitter. I thought it was hilarious. DC police begin enforcing drug-free zones as public use has become a major problem. So it's like, wait, I already thought it was illegal to openly do drugs on the street. Maybe it's not in DC. I know some cities it's totally fine for someone to be smoking crack on the sidewalk. But then you read this and it's actually if there's two people or more and only if they fail to disperse, which is absolutely wild. So apparently if you're by yourself, you can smoke crack out in front of the White House and no one's going to have a problem with it. Police won't do anything. And that is absolutely crazy. But if even DC is going to start somewhat enforcing this, kind of interesting. Maybe this problem has gotten so out of control. They're like, oh man, we got to start doing something. We can't have groups of people out here smoking crack. So at least it's a step in the right direction, right? I played this last week, but it's so interesting to hear Democrats 10, 15 years ago talking about immigration. You got to listen to this. And then right after this, I have a clip of Obama during the Democratic debates. Check this out. It's absolutely crazy.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally. Illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple. Until the American people are convinced that we will stop future flows of illegal immigration, we will make no progress on dealing with the millions of illegal immigrants who are here now. When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration, which the American people overwhelmingly oppose.
Wow, that is crazy. It's like what changed? He's saying it's so crazy that only 10, 15 years later, they've completely did a 180. He is that person that he's criticizing. You get the point. Let's see what Obama had to say about this.
This administration, the Bush administration, has done nothing to control the problem that we have. We've had 5 million undocumented workers come over the borders since George Bush took office. It has become an extraordinary problem. And the reason the American people are concerned is because they are seeing their own economic position slip away. And oftentimes, employers are exploiting these undocumented workers. They're not paying the minimum wage. They're not observing worker safety laws. And so what we have to do is create a comprehensive solution to the problem. Now, I have already stated that as president, I will make sure that we finally have the kind of border security that we need. That's step number one. Step number two is to take on employers. Right now, an employer has more of a chance of getting hit by lightning than be prosecuted for hiring an undocumented worker. That has to change. They have to be held accountable. And when we do those things, I believe that we can take the undocumented workers, the illegal aliens who are here, get them out of the shadows.
Oh, illegal alien. Now, he did say undocumented workers, but he still called them illegal aliens. Called them both.
Make sure that they are subject to a stiff penalty. Make sure that they're learning English. Make sure that they go to the back of the line so they're not getting an advantage over people who came here legally. And when we do that, I think that we can, instead of shedding all this heat, start shedding some light on the problem, and we can once again be a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. That's what I intend to do as President of the United States.
Wow. That is crazy. So it begs the question, what has changed? Again, I know 15 years ago, it sounds like a long time, but it's really not that long ago where this was the position of essentially both Republicans and Democrats. And this was at it looks like a Democratic debate. And, you hear people clapping and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. To me, I don't know the answer. What I think it is that they want votes. They want their votes. That's essentially the only thing I could think of, because it's causing, chaos and instability across the country. Pretty wild. But, so here's what I did. I went and asked ChatGPT, what does it mean to be an American? And it gave me 9 different things. And this is all from ChatGPT, but then I'm going to kind of go in and kind of briefly talk about each one. This is going to be a relatively quick stream, but this is kind of the typical answer you would get if you were to ask someone, right? So obviously the first one is citizenship. You got to have citizenship. That one's fine. Diversity. America is often a melting pot because of its rich diversity. Being American can mean embracing and celebrating the diversity of cultures, languages, religions, traditions. Freedom. This was probably the number one thing that I think people would say when you were to ask them, what does it mean to be an American? They would say freedom. And it's a highly valued individual right, such as the freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, etc. And it's enshrined in the Constitution. Opportunity, the American dream. Shared values. So it says, while Americans come from various backgrounds and hold diverse beliefs, there are common values that many associate with being American, such as democracy, equality, justice, and the pursuit of happiness. Patriotism. Sure, many Americans feel a strong sense of pride and loyalty to their country. This is interesting. I'm going to comment on all of these in just a second. Innovation and entrepreneurship. Americans often value innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship, leading to a culture that encourages risk-taking, problem-solving, and the pursuit of new ideas. Community and solidarity. It says that, despite individualism, Americans value community and solidarity, coming together in times of need. And then finally, responsibility. Being American can also mean taking responsibilities for one's actions, contributing positively to society, working better, blah, blah, blah. Right. Okay. So all 9 of those on paper, I don't know, sound like a okay response. I will say that it added this caveat at the end, and it says that, hey, these are not universal for all Americans, as individuals may interpret and prioritize these values differently based on their backgrounds, beliefs, and experiences. So, I don't know. What does this say? Warning. I don't know. I'll figure that out. Oh, maybe it's because I was playing that music. YouTube's so crazy. So someone said, I'm a U.S. citizen living and working in Australia. It's a different world here in a good way, but still have, I think you meant to say, immigration concerns. Because I live and work here, I call myself an Australian. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So, on the note of patriotism, the first thing I thought of is I remember seeing all these articles saying people were offended by seeing the American flag. And that's one of the things that got me thinking, like, wow, just the American flag is like triggering people. And then there was a Marquette professor, this is 9 months ago. A Marquette professor says American flag is a source of fear, a source of fear and anxiety. Holy moly. A professor in America, this is an American university, feels anxious whenever he sees the American flag. Can you imagine being so weak-minded to be triggered by seeing the American flag in a country you live in? That is a problem, right? I know as in grade school, we used to say a pledge to the American flag, and you did that without thinking, but looking back on it now, it seems like a creepy kind of thing to do, especially since, obviously I'm a Christian. My devotion, I should be pledging my allegiance to God, right? Not my country or a flag. So it is a little odd that we pledge allegiance to a flag. So some people may have a higher value of the flag kind of thing than, maybe I do. But I'm certainly not triggered by it. So that is insane to me. But we are obviously a deeply divided country, and this upcoming political, presidential election is it's gonna be rough. Before I dive into my blog post where I kind of talk about these things, I will say there is a part of me that derives much pleasure from seeing people losing it on election night. And this is a perfect example. Wow, that's a lot of people. So, back when Hillary Clinton ran against Trump.
Hello, Philadelphia!
I'm guilty of this. I take pleasure in her pain. So I will admit that. And I'm part of the problem. The reason why the country's so divided. But Hillary Clinton is a warmongering maniac, and I don't have a lot of sympathy for her.
Thank you for coming out for one last rally before Election Day tomorrow.
Uh-oh, this is where things turn south.
The scene here is so different than it was a few hours ago when people were happy and relaxed. There are people who are just in shock, and they are just stunned at the idea that they were completely sure they were coming to this event to celebrate Hillary Clinton becoming the first female president, and now they are confronting the reality that they could be walking out of here perhaps expecting that Donald Trump is going to become president.
I'm sorry. Maybe it's because I'm so detached from my interest in politics, even though I follow it. I've never been so I can't imagine crying because my political candidate did not win. That is it's so foreign to me. I don't know. That's why I find it funny. Wow.
Everybody should head home. We should get some sleep.
And then I remember this. Hillary Clinton didn't have the balls to come out here and address a stadium full of people because she was such a maniac that, her emotions were probably all over the place. She couldn't muster the courage to get out here and admit defeat and talk to these folks. So this poor schmuck had to get out there and
I want every
talk
person
to the crowd.
Across the country who supported Hillary to know that your voices and your enthusiasm means so much to her and to Tim and to all of us. You are in all of our hearts. Thank you.
Yeah, so what's really funny is the top YouTube comment is, something to the effect of, "Oh, it still warms my heart," which is hilarious. But anyways, so I'm going to dive into my blog post here. So let's check it out. Hopefully you can see my screen. Yeah, so what does it mean to be an American? And I go through the ChatGPT kind of responses here, and but then I kind of wanted to comment briefly on each one. So the citizenship is, so again, just to recap, ChatGPT had 9 different things. Citizen was the first one, and this is the most basic answer to the question of what it means to be an American. But obviously this is being under attack, right? We see the immigration kind of situation, which is kind of muddying it up. But what's absolutely insane to me is that you have certain localities that provide, and I'm not making this up, free housing, free food, free healthcare, and for months and months. And again, I consider myself an anarchist, at least philosophically, right? I'm a realist and understand that will never happen. But if our government is going to be providing free food, housing, and healthcare, wouldn't you think it would be to the citizens of America? Or at least the veterans would be a starting point. We have homeless, we have drug addicted folks that need rehab, they need health care, they need treatment. We have so many needs within our country, and we're providing free housing, food, and healthcare. Now, I will say there are some immigrants who truly come here asking for asylum, meaning conditions are so bad at their home country that out of desperation they come here. And there is a part of me that I'm sympathetic to that, of course. I mean, obviously. But this is on such a mass scale that there's no way it's like that for all these folks coming here. Now, I don't blame them. They want a better life. Who doesn't want to have a better life? More opportunities, more freedom, right? At least that's how they think of America. Well, they're certainly going to come if we give them everything for free on the taxpayers' dime. So it is just absolutely crazy. And then I actually learned today that there was a court case, and it says illegal immigrants are actually allowed to carry guns in the United States. So it is, I mean, that one's kind of an interesting thing because I think, everyone should have gun rights or have the ability to defend themselves. And I probably do agree with that. I mean, I don't want to take away someone's right to self-defense, but that is a little bit of a tricky one. I wonder what leftists think of that. If conservatives were say illegal immigrants should be allowed to carry guns, I wonder what leftists would think of that. But they probably have a problem with it. But anyways, diversity. UBI, right? I mean, if our government did UBI, I'd be fine with that. For American citizens, at a minimum, right? I know this is anecdotally, but like my mother-in-law is in a situation where her Social Security payments is hardly anything, could barely afford rent and food. And, I mean, and I understand this is what family is for. And, as a family, we need to come together and kind of help make sure she has what she needs. And we're doing our best we can, even though she's in a different state. And it creates some challenges. But it's just insane to me that we're giving money to folks from a different country when we have our own citizens who live there their entire life, just barely struggling to get by. I just can't wrap my mind around it. Yeah, it's a constitutional right to bear arms, or it was, yeah. Exactly. So diversity, and I honestly, I feel like most Americans would agree with that diversity is a good thing. I mean, I always was taught growing up that America was a melting pot, right? And, we did all ultimately come from different countries. My family or my grandfather was from France, right? My wife's family, I think, came from England, I believe. But, people came from Europe, came from all over, and I get it. And I think that's a good thing. But of course, this gets forced on people, the diversity gets forced on you. And, these laws that come out and say, hey, you better have X% of your company be a woman or persons of color. And if there are any disparities between that and the general population, then it's proof of discrimination, which is just the goofiest logic ever. And that's where they twist this thing and they just say, hey, diversity's good. And then it gets forced on people, which is ridiculous, right? And then freedom. It is true. America still has a large degree of freedom versus other countries. And I don't deny that. Like I said earlier, I would rather live in America than a lot of other countries. But if you're a libertarian, we want maximum freedom for the individual, and we certainly do not have that. And what's disappointing is most people don't want that. Most people do not want maximum freedom for the individual, for whatever reason that is. Well, there's a lot of reasons why that is. They think that there's a lot of reasons. I didn't get into that, but I kind of wrote and said, hey, most people want to impose their worldview on everyone else. They don't want maximum freedom. They want to censor people. They want you unarmed and unable to protect yourself and your family. They want to force you to bake a cake against your will. They want to penalize success with higher taxes. They want to ban homeschooling and indoctrinate your children with a godless worldview. They say they want freedom, but in reality, they don't. So that's my thoughts on that. Opportunity. A lot of people don't believe this. They're taught that the deck is stacked against them right from birth due to their skin color and gender, etc. They'll say that we're living through the residual effects of slavery, or that we live in a patriarchal society. How many times have you heard that? That marginalized groups don't have the same opportunities as straight white males. And again, we've heard this all a million times. We still do have opportunity. It's just that a lot of people don't realize it. This guy says, enforcing your culture in a foreign land is a recipe for disaster. I have no issue with legal immigration. Live with your new community and be productive. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. Can you imagine? I actually saw a video clip of these immigrants that came in and were demanding food, housing, and healthcare. Like it was an entitlement, like it was their right. Can you imagine if I went to, let's say, South Korea and just said, hey, I need a place to stay. You can't just let me out on the street. They might give me a place to stay, and it would be in jail. Just the gall of people to think that another country, you're entitled to anything, is just crazy to me. So shared values is another one. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. What shared values does America have anymore? I don't know what those shared values are. So, ChatGPT lists democracy, equality, justice, and the pursuit of happiness as potential shared values. Well, the first thing that jumped out to me was, hey, what's missing from this list? Religion, right? I don't think it's an exaggeration to say we used to have a common belief in God as Americans as a whole, generally speaking. And I was like, nothing was perfect, but it's no coincidence that our country is divided while rejecting God at the same time. And I mean, you can look at any kind of studies. It took me 2 seconds to find a graph that kind of showed this. But if you look from 1970s to now, folks that consider themselves religious, which is such a vague term, but even that has dropped substantially, right? It was around 90%. Now it's, close to 63, 65%. And I don't think that's a coincidence that our country's so divided, because we don't have that as a shared value. I mean, that's a huge thing. And then the other thing is, we might say we have shared values, but there's differences in the terms. So, when they say equality and justice, they mean totally different things than what you would think. Equality is equity, right? And even Kamala Harris says that equal outcomes should be the result of public policy. It's hard to put into words how absolutely insane that is. We should strive for equal. She's not saying equal opportunities. She's saying equal outcomes. In a perfect world, we would strive for equal opportunities, which even that is impossible to achieve because of, the family you're born into, the location that you're at. You don't have always the same opportunities across the country, right? I mean, obviously that's impossible, but equal outcomes is absolutely nutty. Patriotism, I already talked about that. People are afraid of the flag, which is hilarious. I don't think there's a lot of patriotism. If there is, it's the Republican Party, and yeah, maybe they go a little too far with it, and I can kind of see how they think it's threatening, but it's ridiculous. Innovation and entrepreneurship, I do agree that this is still somewhat true, but of course, federal and state governments certainly put up roadblocks to innovation. And imagine trying to come up with your own search engine online or whatever. You don't stand a chance against Google, right? All of these companies have consolidated their power and then use the government to restrict new competition. And there's a lot of crony capitalism kind of stuff going on. But if I did want to start a small business selling, some homemade crafts or, rockers, if I was a carpenter, or tables or whatever, certainly, we still have the ability to do that, which is a good thing. Community and solidarity. I wrote, whatever resemblance of community America once had seems irreparably damaged. However, the smaller the community you're in, the more likely there is to have a shared sense of belonging, But even in our community, if I see a neighbor having a Biden or Trump sign, I'm sure half the community is going to give this guy the side eye, like, oh, you support that guy, So, like, obviously, as a Christian, our community should be the church. And what better community could you ask for than having a shared vision of, or shared values of the Almighty God, right? And then responsibility, which this one actually made me laugh. I said, this is so far removed from reality, it's not even funny. People do not take personal responsibility, and this is really at the core of a lot of things. Get bad grades in school, systemic racism. Didn't get hired, oh, they hate women. Nothing is your fault. It's always something else. There's always someone else to blame besides you, right? That's rampant across everything. So, as I close this up, because I got to go watch Orlando City soccer game. I think it's starting right now. I try to watch some sports to kind of take a break from, reading the news and depressing stuff on Twitter. So I still enjoy watching soccer. But let me recap this. America is still preferable to reside in versus many other countries. There's no doubt about it. But of course, it would be better if we had actual freedom. As a libertarian, I think libertarians have a handle on economics. And once you know economics, you can see how much better things would be. Would it be perfect? Absolutely not. But it would be a million times better than what we have. But we should still work towards and pray for peace. It's not good that people are divided. I think that no matter who wins in November, there's going to be violence of some sort in cities across the country. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. So we need to pray that does not happen. More importantly, Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world." So no matter what country you're in, our kingdom is not of this world, right? And, being an American is nothing compared to being a Christian. And I also added, I will be honest with you, back in the day, I used to get a little teary-eyed when I would listen to Lee Greenwood's Proud to Be an American, or definitely like after 9/11, one of Toby Keith's songs, kind of get you a little misty-eyed and whatnot. And be like, hell yeah, America, we kick butt, right? Which is kind of silly. I definitely had a little bit of that patriotism kind of thing going on. But let me tell you, that is nothing compared to thinking about singing and praising our Lord alongside billions of other people, with angels singing as well. Can you imagine just how awesome that would be? I saw a clip of Christians in a big arena. So probably 30 to 60,000 people, something like that, all singing a hymn. And it was powerful. You're like, wow, that's awesome. How much more awesome is it going to be when, I don't even know how it would work because there's so many Christians, but throughout the course of, thousands of years, singing and praising to our King Christ. It would be amazing. So anyways, that's kind of what I put my mind on. But, so that is the real prize. But in the meantime, we should still try to find common ground with our neighbors and help improve what America is supposed to be about, if nothing else for our children. If you have kids, you don't want to see this country going in the direction it is. So love your neighbor. You have more in common with your neighbor than you think. And, as hard as it is, try not to get hung up on, this week's outrage story, which is very easy to fall into, right? So anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. Yeah, cool. I appreciate your comments, Seven. Yeah, that's interesting. If you consider yourself an Australian, despite being American, yeah, if you were there long enough, I can see how that would happen. That is very interesting. 10 a.m. here at Elite for Work. All right, I appreciate you watching, and that's all I got for you today. Like I said, I'll try to do this every Sunday night. So that's all I got. Thanks. Take care, guys. Bye.